When you get a report card, the first thing you look at is the grades, regardless of the fact that the comments are just as or even more important than the grades themselves. Well, for this report card, I did the same exact thing. I skipped over the 50 pages of comments and went straight to write my own explanation for why these grades are such. Well, this raises the question, what are the $386 million of funding de Blasio is funneling into New York City homeless services going to? Well, we know $343 million are going to the upkeep of New York City's 650 homeless shelters. This on average gives each shelter a budget of $600,000 a year. And saying that it takes $2,100 to take care of a single homeless person for a month, these shelters only have capacity for 300 people a year. This only accounts for 17,000 out of the 64,000 New York City homeless population. That's 2/5. What does this shortfall mean for the other 47,000 homeless people in New York City? I took it upon myself to answer this question and better understand the people that struggle from this crisis. Earlier this year, I started visiting my synagogue's homeless shelter to eat dinner and meet the men. Each man has a unique story which highlights either the insufficient social security system, the unavailability of affordable housing, or the lack of support systems we have for our veterans. The most astonishing story was Leo's. Leo was a veteran in the Gulf War in Iraq, the United States invasion of Panama, and the United States invasion of Grenada. A man who has seen things many of us cannot even imagine, such as oil fields burned to the ground, and kids younger than me with torches of dynamite strapped to their chests. A man who has taken a bullet in his knee and has fought a tiger on the coast of the Philippines. This man came back to America and continued to work until he was ran over by a coworker in a forklift. Tragic that such a distinguished man would have his ability to live a prosperous life in America taken away by a work injury. Disabled and lacking proper insurance, Leo was out on the streets in a matter of months. This was until he came upon Main Chance, New York City's main homeless drop-off center. It connects homeless families and homeless individuals with jobs and housing opportunities. It has been praised by city officials such as Bloomberg as a safe haven for New York City homelessness. But while it has great housing connections, it has also been prone to corruption. Meet Nate Spielman, or at least what I assume Nate Spielman would look like. Nate was assigned to Leo as his caseworker to find him affordable housing. He initially ran him through a relatively simple system to find housing. However, after a year and a half of searching, they came up with nothing, regardless of the fact that these systems are meant to benefit veterans. There was a reason behind this, other than the fact that there's a total lack of affordable housing in New York City. On multiple occasions over the phone, Mr. Spielman said to Leo, "If you give me $100 or $200 more, maybe I can make this process go a little bit quicker." Anyone who is struggling to stay off the streets and find a job should not be subject to bribery, especially someone who has sacrificed so much for this country. These flaws need to be approached so that people that need help are not preyed upon by the people put in place to aid them. Luckily, the VA stepped in, and within a matter of 2 months, Leo found affordable housing. But what about people who don't have systems and organizations like the VA to support them? Take Kevin Jolly, another man I had the pleasure to meet. Kevin is a good faith man who told me he believes good deeds come around, and he takes pride in his ability to make light out of situations and see the best in people. After I met Kevin, he immediately sent me to the New Yorker to look up an article that he was mentioned in. The article was about a kayaker that was making a journey down the Atlantic coast and making random stops along the way. Because his stops were random, he relied heavily on the kindness of strangers to offer up home and a meal for him. But as he approached Trenton, New Jersey, he was aware of the crime in the area. However, he had nowhere to stay. As he was about to resort to sleeping under a bridge, Kevin Jolly, walking home, offered up his home and a warm meal for the stranger. Kevin tells me that he does not regret spending much of his 40s and 50s helping others when he had very little to give. Today, Kevin is 63, has poor eyesight, is missing teeth, needs dentures, and has been denied supplemental security income. This SSI provides him $700 a month to provide for these necessities that his Social Security can't cover. Without his SSI, he cannot provide these necessities for himself. Luckily, our synagogue came together and we decided to cover these costs for him because it's the right thing to do. Both Leo's and Kevin's story show us why this report card is such. And if de Blasio doesn't live up to his promise of 24,000 units of housing and 90 new homeless shelters over the next few years, New York City homelessness will continue to rise by the thousand. Thank you.